Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm working on an older canvas. As you can see, there's some lumps and little bumps here from a previous painting. So I just covered it up with 1 to 3 coats. I think it took about 3 coats actually of white acrylic paint, and I'm going to make use out of those little bumps on the bottom and try to incorporate them somehow into a painting. So I'm taking neon yellow right now with some titanium white and a flat brush, and I've got a little bit of water on my brush, pulling it across the top, then coming in with a little bit of some turquoise here, and I'm going to pull and spread that, making it just a little bit bumpy and kind of lumpy on the top there. I'm going to come down below, do another line, and then pull and flick slightly for this area right here. Now at first I was thinking I might add a little castle way off in the distance up top there, but I ended up not following through with that idea. Okay, so now without washing my brush, I'm just going to take some of my phthalo blue, pull a line right there as you can see, and then press, pull, and flick up for a little bit of a forest, and then pull down below, soft little lines. I want to bring some over here down on the left as well. Now I want to take some of my burnt sienna, phthalo blue, and make a nice rich dark color right here, and I'm holding my brush sideways, wiggling quickly side to side, or up and down I should say, depending on how you look at it. And these are going to be some of our cliffs and our ridges that we're going to have on either side of the waterfall. Sometimes I'm taking and using more of my burnt sienna, and then you'll notice during this painting I'll be using a little bit of yellow ochre as well, or right here I'm actually using some, and some of my neon pink. This just creates some highlights and some more details on the cliff, making it look like it's a little bit more 3D, so it goes deeper in some areas and then comes out with a light hitting it in other areas. So I'm going to do a combination of brushing down with my paintbrush, and I'm still using that flat brush, and then I'm going to do some lines that go across. So this is a very, very easy technique to create a lot of impact in a painting and perspective, as well as making your painting look 3D. I washed my brush out finally, and now I'm taking cobalt blue with titanium white, and I'm going to slide my brush up and down quickly again. And no particular reason for choosing this color other than I just thought it would look nice, and this painting is really, really about colors that I love and blending as many as I could and trying to get away with as much as I could in this painting. Alright, I'm going to take some more of my burnt sienna, and I don't have any water on my brush. I'm going to start another layer right in here. So I'm just leaving a space, and then I'm pulling down and then across, pushing into my neon yellow, a little bit of sap green on my dirty brush, and I'm going to pull and slide across to create some grass or moss up top here. I've still got quite a bit of burnt sienna on my brush, so I'm going to have to do that again with a cleaner brush and more of the yellow and even a little bit of my titanium white. So if I barely touch the canvas and I've got lots of paint on my brush, I can apply it over top, and it's going to create a little bit of a texture once it's dry too, which is always really cool. And I'll keep doing this, sometimes taking some turquoise as well, so it's a mixture of sap green, turquoise, I've got cadmium yellow, and neon yellow, and I kind of just alternate and make different combinations using those colors for all these little bits of land. And I've still got a little bit of that burnt sienna, a little bit of yellow ochre in there as well. And I kind of like leaving my brush dirty for a while just so that I get so many different tones and hues and colors and shades in there. I think it just makes for a really interesting painting, and it saves you time so that you don't have to clean your brush off and keep adding a bunch of different colors. You can just do it all at once like that. Keep in mind that you do need to wash your paintbrush out. Probably, I wouldn't leave paint in there for more than 10 minutes, just because it'll start to dry and ruin the bristles in the brush. So I'm coming in with sap green now and turquoise, and I'm pulling and sliding my brush sideways, and then where I have all those bumps and thick paint underneath my primer there, I'm just lightly going over those. And I'm not sure if I'm going to make them rocks yet at this point, or if they're going to be flowers or moss, but you guys know because you've seen the thumbnail for this video. But there are options when you have a painting like that and you don't like it anymore and you think, oh, I better just throw it out because I can't paint over this, there's too much of a texture. You can use it to your advantage. You can take advantage of those what you think are imperfections and incorporate them somehow. Just be creative and you can really make it into something beautiful. So I'm just going to take more yellow ochre now. Still got a little bit of color in my brush, those other colors, and I'm pulling down, holding my brush sideways, and then sometimes just using the corner of my brush too, where I want to make thinner lines. Now I picked up a whole bunch of water and a little bit more sap green, letting it just drip down there naturally. So just going to add a little bit more here. I've got more water in my brush than paint ratio. You can see that it's transparent, like see-through. And then I'll be working on my next step. Clean brush, cobalt and white, making that light light blue violet, and then taking some of my neon pink, mixing all those colors together, and you'll see this beautiful color. Very, very pretty, smoky, purpley plum color. So I'm very carefully just dabbing and doing small little circles or half circles above that line right there. And then I'm even going to pull down. I just decide to pull down and make purpley colored waterfalls, having different shades of pink, sometimes adding more of that neon pink, less blue. And then I'm going to really play up on my neon pink now because I love this color. So I'm taking a little bit of cobalt blue and scooping up a lot of that pink and just kind of going crazy with my brush here, scumbling around, not pushing very hard. And then I'm going to go across and blend very lightly. Pulling back and forth, side to side. So I made that dark color again with phthalo blue and burnt sienna, and I'm going to bring in some nice contrast and shadow right here. That puts this in front and everything else in the background, creating more of that 3D look. This is, I can't say it enough how easy it is to create this look, and you can add this in a lot of different paintings. It's just pulling across and then going up and down. So I'm adding more blue here, and I think I'm using a little bit of phthalo and cobalt. Then I'm coming in with more turquoise, and I'm going to work on the water down here. Just pulling quickly side to side, letting that blue in the back of my brush kind of blend and work itself out, blending in with the pink and that turquoise. Adding more phthalo here. I want to have more of a shadow along this edge. I'm going to be adding some little rocks in here now. And then later on, some stairs. And I'll also be adding a few little mushrooms down in the bottom right corner. I've got a little bit of pink and both blues on my brush, and I'm just kind of pulling and flicking down. Clean brush and yellow. I've got neon yellow. I'm going to filter over the top and the sky over part of the turquoise there now that it's dry. And then start to pull over and brighten up these areas that are supposed to be grass. So in order to make them really show up, I have to add some white in with my neon yellow and well, any of the yellows that I'm using. I'm going to need to add a little bit of white to really make them show up because I've got that dark color underneath. And I'm just going to start brushing off with a clean brush here, a little bit of water, just scumbling off some of that paint and creating the illusion of a waterfall. Now I'm switching over to one of my little fan brushes, and I'm going to take a bit of water with turquoise, phthalo blue, pull and turn to load your brush. I'm going to pull and flick up for some trees here, a little instant forest, and add a few more little ones. They're getting smaller and smaller. On either side, we'll add some more over here too. Now I've got some yellow, and I'm going to just kind of pull and do little taps here for maybe like some little bushes or moss, just a little bit of texture, and then pull straight across. So you can change up your foliage just by tapping or pulling straight. I've just taken a scoop of my phthalo blue, no water, and I'm just going to pull a thick line right in there. Clean brush, still using my little fan. I'm taking just a little bit of that buttery yellow I made with white and my neon pink. And I've also got some neon red on my palette too, so you can use a combination of neon red. In fact, I might be using neon red right here. I think I am. But the neon pink would look just as nice. This is just a little bit warmer, but you can definitely make that color, the warm color, like more of a neon red with the neon pink, neon yellow, and white. And I'm just going to start pulling down the waterfall and then adding pretty little highlights and little half circles, little flicks up and down. The fan brush will take you really far in a painting. It's so versatile, like you can use it for creating many different things. So the edges of the rocks, you can make trees with them. I'm using a little bit of yellow ochre in combination with that neon pink, red, yellow, and white here. So you can see I'm really playing up on the color in this painting, incorporating all these colors, making pastel tones, and adding hints of them in the waterfall, the sky, the rocks. And then I'm going to just kind of play around with my brush, you'll see later on, and make some little fairies or little birds. I've got Mars black right now, and I don't often use a lot of black, but right here I wanted to have a real punch of contrast and a deep dark shadow. I've got a little bit of water on my brush. You can see it dripping down there. And I'm just going to pull right underneath the bright yellowy green grass and come down towards the bottom. And then I'll work up from that, building up some foliage, some stairs, and some flowers later on too. We'll have some really pretty bright pink and red flowers. So I've still got a little bit of that black left in my brush. Black is such a strong dominant color that if I just add a little bit of white and then a bit of yellow here, I can make green with it too and just tap in some little bits of moss and little foliage and bushes and whatnot down here. And then I'm going to start adding some down here on the bottom left. Again, just whatever's left in my brush, and even a little bit of the water just to make it more lucid and see-through. So cleaned my brush off. Most of that black is out of there. I'm just going to pull in. There's still a little bit in there though. You can see it's kind of turned into a Prussian blue where I've taken the phthalo and the white with a little bit of that watered down black in my brush. I'm using the corner of my fan brush now, and I'm just pulling and flicking on either end and creating almost like the letter V or a U, and then they just look like little birds or little fairies. I don't know, something magical and whimsical anyways. So I just showed you my two yellows that I'm using here. I like to use many different brands of paint. You guys are often asking me that, so I thought I would just show you during my videos some of the paints that I use. And I've got quite a bit on my flat brush, and I'm applying it very, very lightly and barely touching the canvas, okay, because the paint underneath is wet. But I also want to create some texture here and make it look like some of these chunks or applications of paint are sticking out and they're thicker than the others. And then I just wanted to add a little bit using just the corner here of my brush, just tapping and light little wiggles here on the top. This earthy yellowy green mixture just is a nice balance for all the other colors that we've got in this painting. More neon yellow and white for this area now. My brightest areas in this painting are going to be white with a little bit of that neon yellow. Now, the reason why I have to add white in with my neon yellow is because it's transparent. So if I just used straight neon yellow, it would dry much darker. So it just kind of creates a filter. But if you really want it to be nice and bright, you need to add a little bit of white with it. Now back to my blue, and I'm using both blues and just pulling and flicking for a little bit of a shadow there on the side. And taking a mop brush now with both of my blues and a bit of white, and load it up and then tap the bottom of it. I'm going to come over here on the side and start tapping in some bushes, but I end up turning it into a little tree. And this is kind of fun. I like this texture that this brings to the painting. And then just add a little suggestion of some way back here, and then a little bit up at the top. Little pull and flick even with the side of my brush. I think I just have so much fun with mop brushes for creating bushes and trees that I can get caught up and carried away in my painting sometimes. Now I'm taking a bit of turquoise and I'm going to do the same, just making little bushes here and there with them. Okay, back to my clean fan brush, the blues and a bit of white. I'm gonna add a highlight now and some more waterfalls. So right here, some nice bright waterfalls. Very delicately though, we want this to be subtle. So you can put your waterfalls wherever you want. That's the beauty of painting fantasy. It's so much fun. There's no rules. And I think that's why I really lose myself in my paintings. I have learned over the years what makes me happy and what brings me joy through my painting. And it really is just painting from my heart and imagination and trusting myself and my brush and not hesitating. That really comes with time. Many of you are asking me how you loosen up and trust your gut and really just feel more joyful while you're creating. And I think the best advice I have is to just paint every day. Paint, and then you'll learn what you love to paint. It's trial and error. You need to paint many different things, many different subjects, trying different brush strokes and different techniques. You can learn a lot from all us artists on YouTube and Patreon and Instagram and TikTok, whatever you're on. And not just stick to one artist. I think all of us have something unique to show you guys and teach you and hopefully inspire you. So I'm going to keep going here with my little pools of water, little highlights, and little waterfalls and streams. I'm going to add some little highlights down here and little ripples down at the bottom of the waterfall. So I'm going to use a little bit of yellow and neon yellow and white and just kind of fluff around, making little ruffly brush strokes with my brush, and then pull and slide back and forth quickly. So here you go. You can see now I've picked up a little bit of my neon red. I'm going to incorporate that to all my warm colors with white. And they look really pretty in combination with the turquoise down there on the bottom. So sometimes, like right here, you'll see that with my waterfalls, I'll do them the opposite way. I'll pull and flick up from the bottom. That can give it another nice look. So just another way of painting or finishing off your waterfalls. Okay, so after working on a few more waterfalls here, I'm going to come in with some turquoise and still using my fan brush and working on some more of these little bird, fairy, pixies, whatever they are. And you can even pull and flick a little bit. As the bristles sort of spread apart in your brush, you can use those for creating little feathers. You can also make those little butterflies too if you wanted, or dragonflies, whatever your preference and likes are. I know dragonflies are really quite popular. I haven't painted one before. I should. I've had a lot of requests for those, but I'm sticking to taking requests right now just through Patreon only. And when I'm finished with those requests, then I'll get to some other ones. So this is one of my favorite things that I did in this painting. I got really excited when I added that neon red and white up top there. I think it just ties in beautifully with the neon yellow and all the green tones we have up there. And I've got my smallest little mop brush here, and it's dry. I don't get it wet first. If I'm creating bushes, you don't want to get your mop brushes wet. You'll ruin the shape of them. So keeping it dry is best, and then going into my neon yellow and white and tapping in lightly these little bushes and trees that are way back there, creating more perspective. And then I'll add a little bit here and there. Down below, some sap green, and then my cadmium yellow. And then having some moss kind of curling over and cascading over the edges. Okay, it's time to come in with some lily pads. I decided I love water lilies, and my oasis, my magical world, fantasy world that I want to create, and if I could jump into and live in, would definitely have water lilies. I just think they're so pretty, and I'm just making skinny little flat circles, and with a sap green and cadmium yellow, and then I'm going to add a few little lighter tones by taking some white with turquoise and the other yellows. Clean brush, back to my neon pink here, tapping lightly over top of the blue, blending in with a little bit of that blue that might still be wet there. Once dry, it's going to look like a really beautiful violety purple color. If you really want it to stay looking bright pink, then you'll have to use a little bit of white with it, wait for it to dry, and then do a filter of just straight neon pink over top. So I've decided to start adding some beautiful flowers over here, very impressionistic of course, just with that mop brush first, neon pink, then a little bit of white for a highlight. Now I'm going to come in with a liner brush and scoop up quite a bit of both colors here. Just tapping, dabbing, and dotting. Remember, these are farther away. We're not going to see every flower petal on there, or every leaf, or whatever. You just want to have an idea, that basic idea that we know. Just adding those little blobs of color and paint let us know that there's either some rose bushes or whatever flowers you want to create in your own little world in painting. It's up to you guys. So down here on the bottom left, I'm using the neon red with the white. And then I'll just do small little flicks for my water lilies. These are closer to us, but I'm still holding back on a lot of detail. I like to paint more and more impressionistic style as I get more comfortable with my painting. I guess it depends on what I'm painting. I did quite a detailed painting a few months ago with my black and white elephant. I don't know if you guys saw that one, but so sometimes I do take the time depending on what I'm working on. But I really do enjoy painting elephants. I don't know what it is. Elephants are just beautiful, mysterious creatures anyways. Maybe that's why. But I do like all the patterns in their skin and their trunk. And so yeah, I take my time and like to do a lot of detail when I'm painting elephants. So I'm just, after adding those water lilies, I wanted to give it more of a blurry look. So I just flicked my brush really quickly back and forth, side to side. And I'm going to make them a little bit more subdued now. And just because I want to create more of a softer feeling and mood to the water down here, more magical. And sometimes when you make things look blurry, it can do that. Not everything has to be super detailed in a painting. I really recommend picking a few spots out of your painting or your landscape that you kind of just blur and make indistinct. You can focus on a few things, and then you don't want to have someone trying to focus on everything in a painting. It can be too busy, especially when you're using a lot of color like this. So if you want to use a lot of color like this, make sure some of the areas in your painting are out of focus. I'm coming in with more of my neon yellow and white now, adding more highlights. I'm going to start adding those steps down there, as you can see on the bottom right side. And those aren't going to be super detailed either. Like sometimes I'll add a railing or lots of flowers or moss and bright highlights, but I kind of just want the focus. I want to draw our eyes into the center of this painting where that waterfall is, and the idea of the pretty flowers down there and those little fairy bird pixie things. And don't you guys love my terminology? You guys know what I mean. So I'm going to add some more highlights up top here. And I'm just using my little liner brush for this. You could also use a small flat brush, Filbert brush, even a fan brush would work. Okay, back over to a small mop brush. It's clean and dry. I've got neon pink, a little bit of white, making this gorgeous bubblegum color. And I'm just going to tap in for some little bushes and flowers down here. Now I fiddled with this area down here a little bit. This is the only part of the painting I wasn't 100% confident on. I didn't really know what it needed, what wasn't coming together right for me. And you guys, the viewers, may look at it and be like, oh, I think it looks, pretty. It looks fine like that. But us artists know what we need and what might not be right in our own paintings. It's very personal. I've got a smaller brush here I'm using. It's a little flat brush, and I've got black and sap green on the end. And I'm going to use that to create my lines for my stairs. So pulling over a little bit farther each time to create that direction and make it look like they're going off towards the right. And this also adds the shadow that we need for our stairs. The highlight will be on top, just like how we did our cliffs here. Darker on the bottom and brighter on the top. It's all about light and shadow and adding layers, building up all that perspective that you want and making something look like it's three-dimensional. I'm just going to add a few more colors, making all those pastel colors, using the liner brush and working on these little birds a little bit more. So I've got some turquoise and white, yellow and white, pink and white, or neon red and white. Use any or all of the colors and just combine them with a bit of white, and they'll really show up against that dark cliff there. And then if you think that they're a little bit too bright or not standing out, then you can go back and add a little bit of shadow, which I just did with some of my blue, using phthalo blue. And I'm going to be coming over here, adding some of that phthalo blue as well, creating a little tree trunk and some branches. And I'm just pulling that blue throughout and then letting it drip down there a little bit. It's a nice shadow color to add. I'm going over to my oval brush. It's kind of like an oval mop type of brush, and it's very soft and it's a really nice brush. I like to use it for treetops, so I'm just adding my cobalt blue with a bit of white and adding a highlight on my trees on the bottom down here and kind of up on the top and wherever else I want to have a little highlight. And back to my fan with my blue and my neon pink and white. I'm going to add a few more little waterfalls and highlights. So I'm just going to continue here with my little subtle highlights. Most of them are just see-through, so I'm not using a whole lot of paint. And my brush is pretty dry. I'm just using the corner of my brush mostly here, and then pulling across the top. I'm using a combination of my neon yellow and white. And also where I have those little bushes, they're just going to be the blue and the white, mainly the cobalt. And pulling lightly and flicking just on the side here. It's a little bit too dark, so I really wanted to bring this up a shade or two. Okay, so after adding quite a bit of highlights on my waterfalls, my trees, and the cliffs, down here I want to just pull over, make it look like there's a little bit more of some water falling, blur this up a little bit. I kind of play around with this area a little bit too. I'm not really sure how many of those little birds or fairies that I want to have. So after going over it, I decided to add in some more here. So I'm taking some more white this time with whatever color that I want to use. So there's some pink and red in there. And I'm using more white, like I said, so that it really shows up. I'm going to use a little bit more of my neon pink now. Brighten this area up down here, just short little flicks. And then a few little waterfalls or little streams that just kind of come over, right, just cascade a little bit over this area here by the stairs. And just a few more highlights here, now using my neon yellow and white again. I'm adding my third or fourth highlight here on these trees, just because when the acrylic sets in and dries, it's always a little bit darker. So be patient, guys. You might have to do your highlights few times in order to get the brightness that you want. I'm just taking the corner of my fan brush here, tapping highlights on the trees, and then blue for a little suggestion of a tree trunk and some branches. Keeping them really small, of course, because they're farther away. I'm just going to work some more on this area down here. I'm thinking of adding another step. I'm not sure if I want to keep a step down here or paint even two more. So I'm going to try it out. If it doesn't work and if I don't like it, I can easily take it off, paint over it, make it waterfalls. You never know until you try, right? And I just wasn't sure what I wanted here, so I had to try a few different things. So I'm just going to try out little bushes along the side here, maybe just by tapping my brush with white, a little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow and green. And then pulling it off, maybe making it look more like some waterfalls dangling down, or it could even be some vines. I'm going to add more color here now. Really want to play up on dabs of color and make it look a bit more exciting and magical down here at the bottom. Now back to just a little bit of my cobalt blue, white, and a bit of turquoise here. Just going to dust the bottom of it off and then wiggle and blend it off with my finger to make it look really soft. Back to neon yellow and white for some more highlights. Okay, so after adding a few more highlights, I'm going to add some little dots and dabs down here that are maybe little stars or little orbs or little fireflies. Who knows? They're whatever you want them to be. So you can use a smaller liner brush for this if you want to create little stars down at the bottom. You just pull and flick. And then create lots of little dots. You can even take an old toothbrush and kind of do the spray effect if you want to have it look like your waterfall's got a light mist and spray at the bottom, or you want to create more of those stars and make it look kind of sparkly. Kind of looking back now, I wish that I had done that. So I'm going to add a few little mushrooms down here like I mentioned earlier. And I'm just using blue and white. So some just kind of lopsided half circles on the top, and then just a little line, a simple line for a stem, and I'm making a few different sizes there. Now I've added some of my neon pink in with my blue and white, and I made a lilac-y kind of lavender purpley color that I'm adding down here on the bottom. I think it looks really pretty here along the stairs. And then I'm just going to flick lightly up and down and add that in the water on either side of the waterfall. So I'm going to add a few more little bits of this bluey purple, pinky color with the white, and then add some more of my phthalo blue and cobalt blue in the tree, adding a few more branches here that I kind of lost when I added all of the leaves. I'm going to pull side to side for some shadow and to straighten out some of these steps, and then here I go back to thinking I might want to add another step in here. I thought I was done with this area, I guess not. So I'm just going to rework this a little bit more, and then I decide, yep, you know, I just don't want that there, so I'm going to come over with a little drop for some waterfalls right here. And then I'm going to build up my flowers and take a lot of my pink and red and dab mainly with the corner of my brush. Add a little bit of white in there too for some softer pastel tones and highlights. And over here on the left side, I'll add a few more. I want to come back in here and bring back a little bit more depth and have a little bit of shadow. I think I just ended up putting too many of those little birds in there, and they kind of got lost and it was a little bit too busy, so I'm just going to go back in very easily with my dark color, whatever dark color you want to use, and then I'm going to just pull a few little lines in here. And then right there, it was meant to just be a little line for some shadow. And I saw a person, a figure right away, and I thought, okay, that needs to be in this painting. So I went with it, and you know, it was just a few little lines and then a dot for a head, and I decided to add another person there, and hopefully it looks like they're holding hands and just admiring the view. And I left it in there, and I was quite happy that that happened. I'm just going to give them, once they're dry, a little light glow and outline with that yellow, neon yellow and white. And this painting is just about done. Just add a few more little dabs and dots in here for stars. But yeah, I really enjoyed working on this, and I'm so excited I got to share this with you guys. Again, I want to thank you so much for all of your support on my channel, on Patreon, everywhere. You guys, without you, I wouldn't be able to keep making these videos. So thanks again, and have a wonderful day, you guys. Happy painting. Bye.